Hi, everyone, and welcome to the TechsPassion podcast. In today's episode, I want to discuss some hacking devices that are available on the market and what can you do to protect yourself. So let's get into it. Before I get started, quick disclaimer. This video is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, and I do not recommend or encourage that you use these to hack into anyone else's device or destroy anyone's property. Please use at your own risk. Thank you. So the first one on my list is the Flipper Zero. This is probably the most known and famous one right now. It is available for 169 US dollars. These are the price of some of the like the case or some of the expansion like the Wi-Fi development board that you can buy with it. It does have a GPIO, so here is the GPIO where you can kind of expand and add to it. I did a full in-depth specific episode just regarding the Flipper Zero. So if you want more details, I highly encourage you to watch that episode after you finish this video. I'll have it show up somewhere here on this video. Now, let's look at some of the specs and what this can do. So I've seen people go from anywhere from like opening garage doors to mess with gas station signs and maybe some Tesla charging port, things like that. It comes with a 1.4 screen and some navigation buttons. This is how it looks like. And it does have this transceiver chip where you can basically interact with a different range of wireless devices, like I mentioned, gas station sign or garage doors, for example. It does come with an RFID. So think of like badge or hotel card, uh, things like that. I mean, hotel keys, things like that, that you can probably clone and then use the Flipper Zero to kind of impersonate or mimic that device. It does have an NFC. So if you have an NFC enabled device, it can also interact with that. It does come with low power Bluetooth and also an infrared transceiver. So think of like remote control, for example. You can also copy the signal from like a remote control, then use the Flipper Zero to send that same signal to the TV or any other device that using that remote control, for example. I did see people copying a car remote. So if your car not using a rolling system code, then you can copy that signal from the remote of the car and then use the Flipper Zero to kind of open the car. It's able to copy an iButton. This is a little bit more of an older technology, so I'm not sure how widely used nowadays, but it can, see these pins that it can actually copy an iButton and then kind of like clone it to another one so you can use it as an iButton. This what's inside, and these are some of the specs. Once again, I do go more in depth on another episode, which I will have it show up here. So if you are interested, you can look more there. The chart for the GPIO, this is how you can expand or extend the Flipper Zero. Yeah, this one has been taken off. So it's been all over the internet. I'm sure you've seen this one somewhere. So next on my list is the Rubber Ducky USB flash drive. This you can buy online on some websites. Also, you can make your own. I found this article that kind of show you how to make your own USB device with a Rubber Ducky script. So instead of like buying one, you can actually image your own USB flash drive. The Rubber Ducky is kind of a command line code that you can execute on the victim computer. So if you plug in a USB thumb drive to the computer, what you can do is impersonate a keyboard. So for the antivirus or for your computer, it's kind of very difficult to detect the Rubber Ducky. Then you would execute a command line, do a keylogger or different type of injection. I'll leave a link to this article in the description or how you can image your own, or you can actually still buy the USB Rubber Ducky. I think it's like 80 bucks online. Speaking of USB, the next one is the USB Kill. This is more like a thumb drive looking capacitor. Think of it like a big capacitor that will kind of induce the motherboard to the motherboard capacitors to kind of charge and discharge, leading to damage in the power system for the motherboard. So this, as you plug it into the computer, it will basically destroy or kill the motherboard. Be very careful of this one. This will definitely damage the motherboard in an unreversible way. So this is more like a power physical hardware damage to the computer, and it's like a USB thumb drive looking. This is the keylogger. Think of it as like a USB hub. So you can see here in this picture that you can uh, plug that into like a USB port. Then you would plug the keyboard into it, and then it will be able to capture and log those keystrokes from the keyboard. Now, some of it do store the keystrokes physically on the device, so you'd have to retrieve the keylogger to get access to the data. And there are some other ones that are able to kind of send those over Wi-Fi. So it depends on the keylogger you're using, you get that Wi-Fi feature or not. Generally speaking, they're easy to hide, and if you can reach the victim computer, plug that in between the USB and the keyboard, and that's how the keylogger usually work. The Ducky script should be able to kind of do a similar function, so that's another thing to keep in mind. These are like there are different version of the keylogger, so that's how they look like. And that brings me to the OMG cable. The OMG cable is like a regular USB cable for charging a phone with inside implant that let you do so much more than just a regular cable. So you can execute a Ducky script. You can control this over a Wi-Fi. Let's take a look at the price real quick. So up here they have the elite version, which is $179.99. There's the basic version for $119. I believe the USB-C, it's a little bit more expensive. So they come in USB-C, USB-A. There's the Lightning for an iPhone. And you can also buy the micro USB. Again, this can impersonate kind of a keyboard. So the antivirus cannot detect this. These are some of the functionalities here. So you can do the keystroke injection, like execute a Ducky script, mouse injection, payload slots. There's 8 of them. So that's where you can stay your payload. And for the elite, you get 200. There is a self-destruct function on it. So after you execute your code, you can kind of self-destruct the cable. And my guess, it would still remain functioning as a regular cable if you do so. Like we said, there's a Wi-Fi trigger, so you can control this over Wi-Fi. It can sit between, for example, a keyboard and the USB. These are the different type. This is some of the functionalities, like we said. This is more like all-in-one hacking device. It's a little bit pricey, but this one definitely can do a lot more than the other ones that we discussed in this video. On Amazon here, I just searched for hacking tools, and there are a lot. These are some of the USB that we discussed. I looked at this watch also. It looks like an Arduino microcontroller, or like a microcontroller for an Arduino IDE. Seems very interesting. I don't know if it's like a hacking device or like a more of a learning microcontroller board. So that one is very cool too. Now, in the next part, what I want to talk about is what can you do to protect yourself? So first, I would say for most of these devices, for your car, you can update. Most of the car manufacturers are updating the code to a rolling system, so that's more secure. You can also just be careful of like having your wallet out. For example, have an RFID protection on your wallet, put your credit card in a safe place, things like that. As far as the USB stuff, then just be careful. Like if you find something out there, I think the best way of protection is just to kind of do your due diligence and then be careful and pay attention to what you plug in into your PC. If someone from an unknown source trying to send you a USB cable or give you a USB flash. Be careful of that. Check your IOs for like the PC. So in case you see anything suspicious, I think that's the best way to kind of protect yourself. In addition to having like antivirus and things like that. However, most of these are the way they go undetectable is they kind of pretend to be a keyboard. So the antivirus wouldn't even know. These are some of the precautions you can take to kind of protect yourself always. I think the best way is to just be aware of your surrounding and be aware of like your action and what you're plugging into the system. This is it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.